These times where women rights have come to the forefront and the atrocities on women have caught national attention, be it in Calcutta, Hathras, or the protest of the wrestlers, we came across this book, Spiritual Heroines, and they represent the audacity of hope. The highest form of freedom is to be free in mind, not just physically but mentally.
Yes.
And as Tagore says, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, may my country awaken to that day. And this is what these women represent. And we have author Nandini Kapadia with us. Nandini, tell us what made you write this kind of a book?
Well, the main reason for me to write this book is, as you said, today we need, they give us the audacity of hope, because these were the women, like today's women, how they are breaking the glass ceiling, as they say, breaking the barriers. These women also broke barriers and stood up for themselves and followed their calling, despite the tremendous odds they faced, despite the disadvantageous positions they were in, because Indian society was by and large a patriarchal society and a patrilineal society, right from the Vedic times, in fact. And that, as you know, is very disadvantageous to women. They have to play a secondary role. They are marginalized, and they are basically confined to the household and making, being subservient to the male members of her family and the society.
Yes. I think that it was a very striking subject, because so often we talk about one woman figure at best,
Yes.
and mostly when we talk about spirituality, we write about generally the men. And I think there are more men who are enlightened and masters, because perhaps they had more freedom to think free.
Again, perhaps because these women never got the limelight they deserved.
Because when we look at Anandamayi Ma, Lalleshwari, Akkamahadevi, so they are as equal to any other spiritual gods that we read about.
Absolutely.
So you've documented all of them.
Yes.
And reading the chapter on Anandamayi Ma, I felt that the book has been so well researched. There is hardly a line which is not backed by research. And that it must have been a lot of hard work writing such a book.
It is, in a sense, but it was, let me tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed, I like doing research on such topics. I myself am a seeker. So it was very rewarding for me to, write about these women and learn from their lives and their teachings and all. And yes, when you are writing about somebody like Anandamayi Ma or Sharda Devi, who were like spiritual giants in their time, even the mother, of Aurobindo fame. So it was a tremendous learning thing for me also, because they all, like Anandamayi Ma, she came from such a humble background, but she was a kind of a born mystic and a born yogini, I would say. And she had a worldwide following, and she had like huge, large devoted following, which of course they're well documented.
And all informal, hardly any of it very institutionalized. Her following was very,
I guess, yes.
It was more deep rooted than, let's say, sabhas and not so much of that.
Yes.
And you also document people like Beasant.
Yes.
Because they also had a very spiritual side to their life. She was the one who identified the potential of J. Krishnamurti and built an institute for his
She
growth.
recognized him as a world leader. Of course, it was Ledbetter also, but she also then realized that his great potential, and she propped him up. She is the one who gave him formal education. She sent him abroad to, the best of schools, the best of everything. She gave him what he would require to become a world teacher. She groomed him basically. And there was also, besides Annie Besant, there was another Irish woman called Sister Nivedita. She was also, I think, she's one of my favorite heroines, I would say. because she was able to give to a cause much greater than herself, you know. She was an Irish woman. Her name was Margaret Noble. And indeed, she was a woman of noble qualities, I would say. And she was one of the foremost Western disciples of Swami Vivekananda. And she embraced his vision of, you know, a spiritually awakened and empowered India so much that she helped him like put it into practice. And she gave herself, you know, completely to the causes she believed in, like educating women. She was a pioneer in education. She built school for women. She helped in nationalistic causes. She nurtured the sick when there was a famine going on. So she was, I think she just had lovely qualities, you know.
And when we've covered a little bit of Annie Besant, little bit of Anandamayi Ma, little bit of Sister Nivedita. Who are the other remarkable? I mean, there are too many to count. There is a whole list over here. But I'm also curious to know about, you know, in passing I have read about Akkamahadevi. So what was her journey like? How do we count her?
Is a kind of a legend, I would say. She was a total rebel, and she was married to. She was a bhakta. She belonged to that Veerashaiva sect, which are today they are called Lingayats. So their deity is the Shiva, you know, and so she was a ardent bhakta of Shiva, and she wrote beautiful poetry about him. But it seems that the story goes that there was a Jain king who fell in love with her beautiful looks, and he wanted to marry her. And in those days, she came from a poor background, so her family couldn't refuse. But she made a couple of conditions that he would not, force her to change her faith, and he would allow her to, follow her own religion. But he would not consummate the marriage unless she wished to do so. So the story goes that he keeps waiting, but she shows no sign of having a physical relationship with him. So one day he gets angry and he tells her that look, if you're not interested in marriage, then you get out of this. So when she is walking out, he tells that, look, the clothes you are wearing also belongs to me, so leave them behind. So in defiance, she stripped and she walked out naked, and imagine in that century, like I'm talking, I think maybe 12th or 14th, I'm not very sure. She, the young, beautiful woman, and she just walked out, just the long, beautiful hair covering her. And she wandered from place to place, and she finally, became one of the leaders in the Veerashaiva sect, and all the male members, those great leaders like Allama Prabhu and the founder Basavannal. So they all had to acknowledge her greatness, and finally she realized herself, So she was a remarkable woman.
And then we also read about Mirabai in your book.
Yes.
What was her story like? What is the striking part of one striking part of the many?
One striking part is, again, she was also a rebel. She was born a princess. She was married to this, this great Mewar family, Rajput family, and she must have, embarrassed them so much, because here is a queen, here is a princess, and she's dancing with the locals, in local mandirs in front of commoners, and she doesn't care who she is. And she doesn't, attend to any of her royal duties, which she's supposed to do. And so I think that is her character, is that her single-minded devotion to her deity. Nothing else mattered to her. That was it. And if you, it's like a take it or leave it kind of thing. And finally, she does walk out of the palace, and she wanders from. After her husband died, and her father-in-law, who was in fact, protecting her all this while, he also passed away. And then her brother-in-law, her husband's younger brother, he tried to tried to kill her 3 times, and 3 times he failed. And after that, she just walked out, and she traveled from place to place. She went to Dwarka, and I think finally she settled there. And in the end, there is this beautiful legend that she emerged in the idol of Dwarka, Krishna idol, and even today they find a small piece of sari on the idol.
It's very remarkable how their stories of their courage are, and definitely, when we read about them or when we talk about them, we discover the places that they have gone. I mean, internally and externally, how far they have gone with their courage, and all within the confines of winning over hearts. That's the story I think we also must carry, that whatever they may have done physically, it may not be practical today, or maybe somebody can do it in a very classy way, but they were able to win over the hearts with whatever actions that they undertook. And
because they were so authentic to themselves, they were not doing it for anybody else. They were doing it what mattered to them the most. It resonated from within.
With their actions came from very deep within their extraordinary spirituality.
Yes.
Is there a person that these are some of the well-known folks that we have read about or heard about. Are there also people you have documented who are less discussed?
Yes, absolutely. There is a one called, her name was Kamesh Kumari Sad, and she belonged to this Shaivite tradition. So her Nath tradition, they call it. So I think that began with Gorakhnath. And so she was in that lineage. She had taken initiation, and she was very attached to her guru. I think his name was Madhava Swami or Madhavananda, who was also a disciple of Surendranath Maharaj, who was a great yogi, and he mostly lived in the Himalayas. And there is a beautiful photo of him with this beautiful long jata and immersed in himself, like in Babalnath temple in Bombay. So she came from that lineage, and she was so attached to her guru that in Gujarat, in that I think Tapi Nadi or something, he took Jal Samadhi. And she was very young that time, the Sadhviji, and she just couldn't bear the thought of living without a guru. So without thinking, she also jumped in the water. And she says, I also will end my life right here. So fortunately, and she didn't even know how to swim. So like we keep hearing stories about how these disciples, they promise that they will do anything for their guru. But this is actually someone I know of who did it. And this happened in like 20th century. So I found that remarkable that without thinking of her own danger to herself, she was so distressed at the thought of losing her guru that she just jumped in. Fortunately, she survived, and she established a mutt in his name.
One thought that crosses my mind is, there is this movie Animal, in which Ranbir Kapoor says, that they're talking about how do you prove your love. So he says time, finally. And these are women that have proven their authenticity, their impact over a period of time. Their stories have survived and lived on. And personally, I feel that most gurus, whether men or women, they are of a scandalous background. There are always scandals brewing in their backyard and front yard and left yard or right yard, and they are very juicy stories to write about. And in time they get busted, in time they lose their respect. Whether it is Osho, let's not be biased towards any particular person, but so these are women that have proven with time that they were pure spiritual souls, spiritual heroines.
And believe me, they were also scandalous in their times. Imagine Mirabai, imagine Akkamahadevi.
Controversial. I don't mean to.
Controversial and scandalous. But yes, they are now celebrated as
but not scandalous in the sense I was talking about. But I was perhaps saying scrumptious, if there is a term like that. So Nandini, would you like to read some portion from the book, maybe just an introductory paragraph, so that somebody could be motivated to read And
Yeah, sure. So I'll just read out a paragraph or two from my author's note why I felt the need to, write this book. So that history tells us that Vedic society was patriarchal and patrilineal.
patrilineal, I think
Yes.
that's a very interesting, patriarchal and patrilineal.
Yes, where it's propagated by the sun, anyways. So, where women were largely relegated to playing a secondary role. Yet, defying the odds, some rose to fame as seer composers of hymns in the Rig Veda, and some gained respect as Brahmavadini or scholars in expounding the scriptures. Notwithstanding the thousands of years of male dominance, every era has witnessed remarkable women who broke the mold to follow their calling. Their power could not be suppressed by the disadvantages they may have faced because of their gender. Bhakti saints, sages, mystics, ascetics, yoginis, and gyanis from all corners of the country have left behind a rich spiritual and cultural heritage.
I think it's a very interesting paragraph you've written because it sums up that this disparity of gender
Right.
has existed in for thousands of years,
Yes.
even in the Vedic times.
Absolutely.
And
And it became worse and worse after that through the Middle Ages.
And then also you talk about that even in all these times there were these spiritual heroines
Yes.
who sort of rose from wherever they were
Yes.
and proved their stature
Yes.
as people who think free, live free,
Yes.
and
basically follow their calling.
follow their calling,
Yeah.
follow their calling.
Yeah.
And I think, Nandini, what do you think about today's times when you look at, these protests on various legitimate incidents, like the girl getting killed in Kolkata is like a new law in women
Certainly,
rights.
yes.
And then there have been very protests by the wrestlers, Sakshi Malik, Vinesh Phogat.
Yeah.
It had to carry on long for a very, very long,
Right.
and they couldn't arrive at the said goal of basic justice, maybe.
Yeah.
And so, what do you think in today's times when we are discussing all of these women rights? What could be the gap in these discussions? Do you think that there are a few things that news and media are not talking about in women rights?
Well, I would say that this whatever is happening today is unfortunate, and even though women have come a long way, I think they are still being shortchanged in many ways. And what these women, like the wrestlers who decided to come out and voice their grievances, I think that was a remarkable thing to do on their part, because it takes a lot of courage, to do that. And the gap, I would say, is that ultimately one has to be true to themselves and speak out when they need to. And I think these kind of women, these spiritual heroines, as you said in the beginning, they give that hope to women, that it is their time and they will not stand for wrongdoing.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, you and I feel that.
Yeah.
See, when you talk about, let's say, writers' rights in Bollywood.
Yeah.
So when you say they are like this, they don't get their dues, they don't get their that, they don't get that.
Yes.
But then we talk about Salim Javed, how much of their rights they were able to, fight for and
Right.
get.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about women rights, how they are shortchanged, how they are oppressed, how they are suppressed,
Yes.
we skip talking about those who have come so far, because in a way that shows that there is a scope for real hope, not just blind optimism.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
So that's the thing that, let's say, when you say that this can't be done,
Yeah.
and somebody shows that this can be done,
Yes.
it sort of topples the narrative in a direction where we say that, see, this can be the norm.
Yes. Yeah.
Forget about this being a once in a while exception, but
Yes.
there's a lot that can be achieved.
Yeah, and nowadays you see that even at the government level, they are trying to empower women in various ways, and that's a good thing for me. They've initiated this Nari Shakti banner. Under that, they've launched various schemes to educate them, give them more facilities, like medical, even at the rural level, they are taking steps to make them more independent, more kind of more productive, people in the society. Because only if there is a balance, you can have a proper progress. No, if you are just ignoring one section of the society, it's not healthy.
Yeah.
So
We are. Let me tell you a little bit about Nandini, and she'll also tell us a little bit about her. Nandini Kapadia is also a US returned Indian because she lived in New Jersey for long.
yes,
And she documented the life of an informal guru, Sabyasachi Guha. So he was not a guru. He is not a guru in the traditional sense. He just gives talks. He meets people, and people feel that they should write about him. And you wrote about him as well.
yes.
And tell us what your personal journey has been, little bit.
Yeah. So by the time I met Guha, so first of all, it's a very cliched saying, but they say that when a seeker is ready, the guru appears, kind of, So I felt that at every stage when I needed some kind of a guidance, or I needed some push in a new direction, I always found somebody. So when I really thought I needed a mantra diksha, at that point, I'm talking like long time ago, and I was just starting my spiritual journey. At that time, I was fortunate to meet, Pandit Rajmani Tigunet, who's from the Himalayan tradition. He was a disciple of Swami Rama of the Himalayas. So he runs an institute. Heads an institute in Pennsylvania. So he became my mantra guru. Then after that, when I felt that I was needing another direction or whatever it was, some inner call comes and you just go towards that. And then I came across Ramana Maharshi's teachings and all. Not that I read too much about him, but he was very, although I never met him in person, but he changed my life completely. And I read more about him after that. He moved me in a way no human being could have moved.
And you accessed him without any institution. You would read about him.
No,
you
nobody
see.
told me about him. I just read little bit about him, and there it just so happened that he kind of
they say that a true guru is one who frees you of himself.
Yes.
And
yes.
so your interaction with Ramana Maharishi shows that a guru can be there for you without being there.
Absolutely. He's my invisible friend. That's how I like to call him, He's always there with me, and
Yet you don't require any physical access to be with him.
No.
There is no pressure on your time.
No.
You don't even have to take time for time off. See, most gurus require us to take time off from whatever else we do and visit them or spend time in their practices and follow some beaten path, get stuck somewhere, waste our time. And some of them are exceptions, and in time that they have proven that they are exceptions. So I feel that Nandini's book Spiritual Heroines is very special to me because she has covered people who have proven their mettle over a period of time.
Thousands of years.
And for somebody who's cynical like me about spirituality, who doesn't read anything about it, because most of, it's my personal take that spiritual criminals are more dangerous than frauds, than people who loot your money or politicians even, because they maim your mind, right?
True.
And so, but there are some like them who help your mind to flourish.
Who are genuine, and who, if he's a true guru, he will guide you in such a way that you become independent of him, not be dependent on him.
So so that's I think the winning note on which we should provide a takeaway to our watchers. So we should have a guru who makes them independent of ourselves. So thanks a lot, Nandini, for sparing your time to discuss your book and also writing it.
And thank you, Tarun, for
It's
having me on
available
your show.
everywhere in
Yes.
Amazon, and whoever really needs it will find it.
Yeah. Yes, it's available on Amazon and on the publisher's website, which is mlbd.com. And I thank you also very much for having me on your show.
Thank you.